Welcome to The Explainer. We are diving headfirst into the Southern Ontario real estate market for September 2025. And believe me, the landscape is changing, and it's changing fast. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, this is it. This is the big one, right? The question that's on pretty much everyone's mind, whether you're just dipping your toes into the market or you're thinking about your next big move. Let's really dig in and find out what the answer is.
So the short answer? Yeah, it is. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch. This market right now, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a game that rewards patience, a good strategy, and we're about to show you exactly why that is. Okay, so let's start with the big picture, that 30,000-foot view. September 2025. Wow, it brought this really fascinating mix of signals. On one hand, we're definitely seeing prices cool off from last year. But on the other, a recent little nudge from the Bank of Canada is starting to stir the pot and wake things up a bit. Now, before we jump into all the numbers, there's a term we absolutely have to get our heads around. Because for the first time in what feels like forever, a huge chunk of Southern Ontario is in what we call a balanced market. So what does that mean? Well, you can say goodbye to those crazy, frantic bidding wars. Negotiation, it's back on the table, folks.
But here's the thing. This whole balanced market story, it's not the same everywhere, not even close. Your experience buying or selling a house right now really, and I mean really, depends on your postal code. So we're going to break down three key areas: the GTA, Hamilton, and the Waterloo region.
First up, the big one, the GTA. You know, it's the economic engine of the whole region, and usually what happens here is a pretty good sign of what's coming for everyone else. And right now, it's telling a story of some pretty major change.
So that average price, yeah, it's still hanging out above that big psychological $1 million line. But here's the key thing to really get. That number, while it sounds high, actually represents a major cool down from where we were at the peak of the market. And here's that cooling trend boiled down to a single number. Almost 5% down from this time last year. That is a really meaningful shift. I mean, think about it. On a $1 million home, that's nearly 50 grand less than it would have cost you last September. For buyers who've been feeling totally priced out, that is some seriously welcome news. Okay, let's head down the highway a bit to Hamilton-Burlington. And wow, what a difference a short drive makes. The picture here is completely different. And the story isn't just about price anymore, it's about choice. And this right here, this is the number you need to pay attention to in the Hamilton-Burlington area. 5.1 months of inventory. That means with all the homes for sale, conditions have totally shifted. There's no other way to say it. This is a buyer's market, plain and simple. And, you guessed it, that huge shift in supply has had a massive, direct impact on prices. We're talking a double-digit drop in the benchmark price. That's basically the value of a typical home in that area. That's one of the biggest corrections we've seen in the whole province. This, right here, is where smart buyers are finding some incredible deals.
All right, for our last stop, let's check out the tech-heavy Waterloo region. The story here is a bit different again. The one thing that really defines the market right now is this huge surge in the number of homes up for sale.
Just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about inventory being above the 10-year average. That means if you're a buyer in Kitchener, Waterloo, or Cambridge, you have more options, more choice than you've had at any point in the last decade. That level of choice completely changes the game. Okay, so we've looked at where to buy, but it's not just about where anymore, it's also about what you're buying. You absolutely have to look at the type of home because, believe me, the market for a big detached house is acting way differently than the market for a downtown condo. And this breakdown really shows you where the action is. Look at the condo market. It's seen the biggest price drop, down a full 8% from last year. There's a ton of supply, which means buyers have some serious negotiating power. Then you've got townhouses, kind of that sweet spot in the middle, with a more modest 3% dip. And finally, detached homes. Yeah, they're still the most expensive, but they've also softened by about 5%, and they're definitely taking longer to sell.
So you're probably wondering, what in the world is causing all these shifts, right? Well, understanding the forces that are pushing and pulling on the market is absolutely crucial if we want to figure out where things are going next.
It really comes down to three big things. First, that little interest rate cut we saw recently, it didn't seem like much, but it really boosted confidence and helped with affordability just enough to get people moving. Second, there's been this flood of new listings, giving buyers the one thing they've been starved for years, choice. And third, you can't ignore it,
Strong immigration keeps bringing new people who need a place to live, which supports the underlying demand.
Okay, so we've looked at the numbers, we've talked about what's driving the changes, but let's get to the most important part. What does all of this actually mean for you? Let's break it down.
This really sums up the new reality, doesn't it? If you're a buyer, the message is loud and clear. You are in the driver's seat. You've got time, you've got options, and you have real negotiating power again. Now, if you're a seller, the game has changed. It's all about being realistic. You have to price your home for this market, not the market from a year ago. That's the only way you're going to get it sold.
So, with all that in mind, what's the crystal ball say? What can we expect as we round out the rest of the year? Well, the general feeling is get used to this. This newfound balance looks like it's here to stay, at least for a while. We should probably expect prices to level out, maybe see some tiny little changes here and there, but that high number of listings is going to keep things tilted in the buyer's favor. Welcome to the new normal, folks.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a market that's finally taken its foot off the gas, is the winning strategy all about speed? Or is it about patience? It really seems like success now isn't about how fast you can pounce, but how patiently you can wait for that perfect opportunity to show up. Something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.